I am here with Raphael Sbarge, and we are at Dragon Con 2013. And I actually want to start out at the very beginning, so to speak, because I read that your mother was a costume designer.
Yeah.
So I want to see, as someone who grew up around that, what do you think of Dragon Con and all the costumes?
Oh, that's such a great question. That's so cool. Because someone was asking us at another panel, like, what is it like? You know, do you enjoy being around the costumes? And as a little kid, literally 4 and 5 and 6. I mean, I remember playing in the costume shops with fabrics and aging costumes and trying things on and trying. You know, it's a blast. But I mean, the amount of artistry and care and time and attention, and I know what's involved because I've literally sat there and watched it happen. Is remarkable. This con also is so warm and intimate from a fan point of view.
Yeah.
You know, it feels because it is so fan based and doesn't feel as corporate as maybe some other ones. It's particularly, you know, I don't know. The costumes are exceptional and. Do
you have a favorite that you've seen so far today?
Even if I did, I probably wouldn't say it. As you know,
that's fair.
I don't have a favorite child either, right? So
that's fair.
But the amount of time and attention and energy and passion is remarkable.
Well, that's cool. So you grew up in a theatrical family. So how did you start out, you know, in your career?
I was 4 on Sesame Street.
Wow.
They were looking for new kids on this new show called Sesame Street, and I just happened to be living on the Lower East Side at the time, where they were filming it. And I did a bunch of shows, and then my mother, who was very popular at the time as a designer, didn't want to be a stage mother and didn't want to schlep me around, and so she said, look, if he wants to do it, I'll do it on his own. So she turned down the contract to do more. And what happened ultimately is, I guess, I just kept working, doing plays and things, and then at 13 I decided to be an actor. So and did it on my own. So I was living in New York and was able to kind of just go around and take my bike to my auditions and
that's great.
That kind of thing.
Just biking around New York. Now I know that you have been on stage, as you said, with the theatrical work. You've been on TV. You've been a voice actor in both animation and video games. What does your process change? Do you prefer one? Tell me a little bit about the different experiences in that.
You know, they're all different. I can't say I prefer one. I mean, I certainly feel most at home on stage, but the hardest thing about being on stage in the moment as being a dad is being able to make a living as a stage actor is a little tricky. But it certainly is my passion. I love doing stage work. The voice work is complicated and interesting and very, you know, focused and intimate because it's just you and the microphone. Obviously working on film or on TV is, you know, where you get to kind of work with a community of folks and sort of evolve something together. That's also just, you know, different, wonderful. You know, it's like, do you like Chinese food or Indian food or American food? Do you like steaks or, you know, yes. It just it depends on the night and depends on what your mood is, and I've just been so blessed that I've been able to sort of do multiple different kinds of work, and that people continue to sort of find me to do so. So
yeah, you have a very broad range. I've noticed that you've been in like 1 to 3 episodes of like half of my favorite shows. So you've been on, let me see, it's okay. So Bones and Castle and Prison Break and Numbers. You were on Quantum Leap back in the day, which I love Quantum Leap. So you know, you've been on all these different shows. And then I know that you've also had regular runs on things like The Guardian and Once Upon a Time, and which you're still continuing on and everything. So tell me a little bit about the experiences you've had. Do you have any great stories? Do you have any fun experiences from like being kind of the guest character on a lot of these shows? And then
I mean, the only story I had was a guy. I was in Australia recently, and a guy came over and stopped me and said, "Wait, you're that guy! You're that guy that's like on two episodes of every show ever made." So
it's true. It's true. There are very few of you in the industry that are like that. I think Mark Shepard is another one. You know, you see him on like all the. But it's true. You're on all those shows. So
that's so funny. I mean, I'm grateful to be that castable, and I'm happy to be working.
Yeah. Well, you know, every time I see you, you bring a lot to whatever role it is. I always remember you. As you know, even if you're only on there for 1 episode, so that's great.
Thank you for that.
And then you did have a regular recurring role as basically the best friend on The Guardian. You were on that for quite a while. So
yeah, I did that for 3 years. That was a wonderful show, just because the writing was so good. Danny Coleman was so great, such a classy guy, and they were sort of attempting to do something that was not just sort of slasher based, which is what a lot of sometimes you know, sort of more meat and potatoes television can be, right?
Yeah.
It was more thoughtful. It was more sort
Yeah,
of
it was a different
lean forward kind of a show.
Type of show in terms of the process and everything, and the tone of the show was definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sort of, it existed a lot in the subtext. We would get to scenes sometimes and actually take lines out so that it would really be about just sort of what we were not saying. And that was so interesting to sort of be on a show where that was sort of the case.
Yeah, and as an actor, I guess that presents an even greater challenge as to trying to, you know, act without saying everything into the camera, basically. So
yeah, and sort of how you evolve a point of view, or how you sort of project a point of view without actually sort of having to sort of speak it. You know, so.
Now, and your voice acting work, I know you were in, is it Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, right? And Mass Effect, the Mass Effect franchise. So how did you end up in that, you know, industry as well? Because I know that sometimes it can be harder for people to get from one into another to transition. So what was your experience going into voice? Or maybe it wasn't difficult at all for you, which would be great. So.
Well, I mean, I obviously had a lot of, you know, stage training, so I've got, you know, I think you find a lot of people who work in video games have a stage training, just because you have to learn how to be able to sort of communicate through your voice alone and not your body and without physicality. And so what happened was, you know, again, as actors, you are invariably looking for work in multiple different forms. So I used to do television commercials, and then that evolved into, of course, doing voiceover commercials. And then your agent would say, hey, I got this video game. And it just happened to be Mass Effect, or Knights of the Old Republic, or some of the Star Wars games, and it was. I've just been really incredibly fortunate that I've been able to kind of have those kinds of opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, I know people that just work in video games, and some people who would like to work in video games, and somehow I've been able to do both. I wish I knew what the secret formula is. I've just been really fortunate.
Being good. Well done.
Yes, well, thank you for that.
That's really great. And now I know that you had mentioned that you're working on a series, and you could you tell us a little bit about that? Is that ongoing now?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm executive produced and directed a series called On Bagley Street, which is essentially sort of centered around Ed Bagley Jr., who is in preparations of building a sort of a green, the world's greenest home, we're saying, but it's a platinum LEED certified home.
Wow.
LEED means it's sort of effectively off the grid. So, and it's actually, it generates energy, which is incredible.
Is it powered by an arc reactor?
Right, well, there you go. That's another show, right.
That's a different show, but no, that sounds, okay. So
and it premieres on September 15th. And it'll
on
be
what?
On Evox Television, EVOX Television. And people can follow me on Twitter or on various, social media outlets to sort of get more information about that.
And your Twitter is just your name, your full name?
Raphael Sbarge, right?
Okay, right.
And so, but it's a fun and kind of, informative and without being forced to eat your vegetables, you can sort of laugh and also, get some information about, how to sort of how people are considering a different way of building. We built the same way for 100 years, and so this is a way in which, with new technologies and new, more thoughtful ways of considering the environment, you can actually sort of build something and actually do it in a way that really is not quite so harmful as it usually is.
That's pretty cool. So one possible spoiler, even though I'm sure it won't hurt. So designing a house like this, can you still make it look nice, even though it's got all the, like solar panels and whatever else it might have? Is it going to look like a space age crazy, I mean, I'm curious about that.
That was actually a huge part of the conversation, which is that, Rochelle Carson, who's Ed's wife, said, look, I'm going to build a house, but I'm not going to live like the Jetsons, right?
Right, yeah.
So I don't want, it's perfectly fine, but I don't want to live that way. So they go through there's a big conversation about the aesthetic, over, in this case, over the dynamic of making sure that it's efficient and energy efficient and everything else. So, yeah, that's a part of it.
That's really cool. Now, you are on Once Upon a Time. I love your character. I think it's fantastic. Jiminy Cricket. I mean, how could you not? I loved it in the original Disney. So, but I think they've done a really interesting job with your character and developing it, and I think you're doing an amazing job, of course. And so, tell us a little, tell the viewers and myself a little bit about, what it's like working on that. So, I mean, it's a really great show. It's a really fun set. It's a great premise. So, what's your experience been like with that?
Yeah, I mean, what they did was create a show that is outside the box, right? I mean, it's not sort of the disease of the week or the dead body of the week or, the law case or the, of the week. It really is sort of as big as your imagination in a way. It's a huge canvas. And in the course of doing that, what they've done is been able to introduce characters that we know and that we have sort of a relationship to, like Jiminy Cricket or Snow White or whoever, and so by virtue of you knowing that character already, you already feel connected to them, and then they expand on it in such a clever, imaginative, and really sort of three-dimensional way. It's been the hallmark of the show has been the great writing.
Yeah, well, because when you came onto the scene in your character, and then they started developing your story, it went somewhere I wasn't expecting. Which I mean, it all makes sense in the realm of the original stories, but it was a very interesting portrayal of it in the real world, or what it would be like. So I really enjoyed
it's so clever
that,
to have a character associated with your conscience than being a therapist, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
just
that was
even
great.
that is such a clever
really
way to
fun.
go.
So that's really neat. So now, with Once Upon a Time going forward, is there anything we should be looking forward to? Tell us a little bit about, or have you had a favorite episode or anything like that you'd like?
Yeah, I mean, the show continues to evolve, and we all know that they're going to Neverland, and that's not a spoiler, and that I think that probably they'll be in Neverland for a little bit of the season, and they're away from Storybrooke for a while. They've obviously introduced a lot of new characters, and they'll continue to do so.
We'll continue to see you.
I understand. I understand that you will.
That's good. That's good.
Maybe not right at the top of the season, but you'll see him, and the show has a huge fan base. I'm sort of astonished how not all American entertainment travels, right? But the tweets that I get from Croatia and Russia and France and Germany and Australia, it's incredible kind of the reach that it has and the fan base it has, and these fairy tales as a sort of an idea of telling stories that have that cut across language, that sort of go back to being just what it's like to be a human. I think are powerful. And again, they've gotten right on the edge of that nerve and been able to kind of really sort of do that over and over and over again. So it's neat. I mean, they've got also this other wonderful show called Wonderland, which is coming out.
Which looks really fun.
Looks
I always enjoy the Alice in Wonderland story generally.
God.
So
and there's such amazing actors who are going to be part of it. So it's really exciting. And
is there going to be some crossover there?
I don't know if there is, but I think that maybe a separate world. I think that's sort of I think they could do any number of things, but I think they've sort of spun off and created their own world, and then. It sounds like what they'll do is probably then, it'll go 13 or 16, and then they can spin off to another world. Yeah. So I
can see conceivably some sort of Buffy and Angel thing where eventually they cross over again and somebody could,
Totally.
I could see that. But I think it's going to be a really fun show. So, any funny stories from the set of the show? It seems like a really great cast. Anything exciting happened that
Oh gosh, I mean, we hang out a lot. I mean, Ginny and Josh, who are Snow White and Prince Charming, and then Lee Ehrenberg, who plays Grumpy, and then the seven Happy, who's Michael Coleman is one of the seven dwarves, and Meg, who's another seven dwarf, and we all kind of entertain each other in Vancouver, which has been really fun, and it's been. It's a really warm bunch of actors, and I think everyone's also really proud of the project because it sort of feels a little bit like being on an all-star team because it's a really good show. And it's well told,
and it's well written,
right? And well produced. So I think we're all proud of that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to share? Anything else you're working on right now? I know we've got the web series and Once Upon a Time. So
yeah, I mean, the only thing to sort of perhaps mention is a nonprofit that I formed, which is called Green Wish, which is a nonprofit that actually supports the environment, and it's sort of how I came to Ed vaguely, and it's a nonprofit that actually supports other nonprofits. So as opposed to helping one, you're helping multiple across earth, air, water, sustainable education. And so I'm here at Dragon Con, and I'm here. All the proceeds will go to Green Wish.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
So it's a
way. That's really good of you.
Well, it's a way of giving back, and there's so much need out there. And as opposed to helping one group, you're helping multiple because there's so much need, and that's a feel good thing.
So is this your first Dragon Con, or have you been here before?
I've done this once before.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'll come again, but this is it's one of my favorites.
What are you most looking forward to for the rest of the weekend?
The parade will be fun.
The parade will be fun. You're gonna go see the whole parade.
I missed it last year, but I'm hoping to be able to watch it this year.
Well, I hope you can see it. So thank you so much. It's been great.
Oh, likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.